There, this is an open letter to my friends and family regarding drugs, um, and maybe Senator Rubio because he's he's pretty frustrated with the drug situation. Mr. Senator Rubio, Marco Rubio. Uh, Here's the thing, folks. There was a show in Sirius TV series in the 90s called Friends. I'm sure many still remember it. Maybe 90s or maybe 2000s. I'm not sure. Um, there was a research done about it that the group of friends who were represented in that show, like 5 or 6 characters, were considered as friends, namesake of the show, and uh, represented by 6 characters. There was a research done that each one of these characters, with the kind of jobs that they had in New York City and the kind of hours they were putting in those jobs, uh, there was no way in hell they could afford the style that they were living in New York City, unless they had a trust fund somewhere. They had all of them, unless they had a trust fund somewhere that they had a specific, a large sum of money directly going to our account every month from the trust. And then whatever they made with these jobs that they had, with the hours that they kept, uh, whatever they made would be supplement to their trust fund income. That's basically the conclusion of the article, was that that's the only way these folks could have lived the way they lived in New York City at the time they were living. So what is being said? What am I saying? What I'm saying is that an idea is sold. The idea is sold to the public through these fictitious programming from the TV and cinema. The idea is sold to the public that only with a few hours of work, the public that doesn't read that research and can't do the calculation, the idea is sold that yes, you should be able to have a good life with friends and family with very few hours that you put in doing just regular jobs that these half crazy boys and girls on Friends were doing. Very regular jobs with a few hours a day of work. So the, so this idea is put in people's head that yeah, you should be able to have a good life with very few hours of work. And then you have this in the 80s and the 90s, they had the lifestyle on Rich and Famous. And then in the 2000s and 2010s, all these reality shows comes about, in which it usually involves people who are very rich. They're rich and famous, therefore they have a following, therefore a show is made about their life. But because they have the wealth, the show that is being made is showing their lifestyle, which has nothing to do with the common man's lifestyle. And that, just like the lifestyles of Rich and Famous in the 80s and 90s, these, wives of Washington, D.C. and wives of Atlantics, housewives of Atlantics, and all these shows, reality shows, Kim Kardashian and her family, and Paris Hilton and her family, and this and his family and her family and the other family. These idols are put on the pedestal for the common man to worship, because these are the fruits of capitalism, They have been able to put enough capital together, either by charm or inheritance or, you know, pure salesmanship. They have been able to put so much capital together to live such a kind lifestyle. And these lifestyles are shown to the populace, the common man, as a form of entertainment and as a form of incitement to work harder and smarter. But let's not forget that. Because if you work hard and smart, you know, you can be one of these. Well, smart is a very relative term. If half of your population is not very, you know, cognitively well endowed, then how smart do you think they can work? Can they all be, you know, Teslas and, you know, invent shit right out of the blue because their mind works so fast? It's a kind of, you know, blowing smoke up their ass that yes, you can do it. Oh, fuck you. No, if you don't have cognitive, that much of a cognitive ability, you can't do, you know, rocket science. Therefore, and because only a specific group of specialized individuals with a very special skill, which has to do a lot with cognitive ability, because those can reach those level of wealth because their skills are so valuable, you're telling a common man who has none of those skills, absolutely none of them. 50% of people today on earth have only physical aptitude. They don't have very little cognitive aptitude. It's 50% of human beings. Because up to 100, 150 years ago, having the physical aptitude was the most important thing because it kept you alive. The physical aptitude was the one that kept you alive. Now, in terms of wealth, physical aptitude, you know, if you can be one of the few playing in NBA, maybe that physical aptitude will pay off big. But 99%, how many players does the NFL, NBA, and BLM require in total? So, if you don't have that much cognitive aptitude, you have more physical aptitude, fuck you, you're screwed. They're blowing smoke up your ass with regards to, yes, you can achieve what, you know, these rocket scientists have achieved, or those, you know, those genius businessmen have achieved. Well, a genius businessman, the first thing you have to be able to do as a genius businessman is that you can at least have to be able to do math in your head. What percentage of population can do math in their head? At least 25% of the population can't do math on paper. What percent of the population can do math in their head? That's one of the requirements of being a very good businessman. It's just a bunch of nonsense blowing smoke up people's asses that yes, you can be what you want to be. Sure. So, but the problem with this blowing so much smoke up people's asses that life is great, you just have to try harder. If you try harder, you can be a rocket scientist. Telling it to 100% population, even though you know 50% can't do. At least 50% can do. So telling this over and over can take you only so far before, well, the individual becomes very depressed because you keep telling him that he's equal, that he can become a great businessman without cheating, and he's not able to. So you keep feeding him bullshit that he can, but in reality he keeps hitting the wall. What happens, do you think, after that? What happens when all your life they tell you, yes, you can be a genius, but then you can't? It's just not possible. You haven't been able to. And you see most of the people around you haven't been able to become so successful just with the aptitude that they have, which is mostly physical aptitude. So you start hating yourself. You start thinking that there must be something wrong with me because I cannot hit the bar, the high bars that they're setting for me. They tell me I can be a rocket scientist, but I can't hit that bar. They tell me I can be a good businessman, but I can't hit that bar. They tell me I can't do this, I can do this, but I can't. They keep telling me that I can. Like, example of the friends. They keep telling me that I can work with the hours that these friends in that show put in, with the jobs that they were doing, and therefore I should be, they're telling me I can make a good life for myself, just like the friends in the fictitious show for myself in New York, with with their salaries, but I can't. So people start hating themselves. Then they go mad on the credit card, start buying shit that they actually can't afford because the system keeps telling them you should be able to afford this. See how friends can afford it, Kardashian can afford it, Paris Hilton can afford it, Ariana Grande can afford it, and therefore if you can't afford it, you're a loser. So it becomes a matter of credit cards. Okay, now I'm going to show that I'm not a loser, even if that means I have to go borrow money to buy something, or I have to go steal it. Literally, these smash and grabs that are taking place in large cities in Europe and North America is smash and grab. These are poor people who, you know, they, they believe they have to be successful. But like Mr. 50 Cent says, get rich or die trying. Get rich or die trying. And this is, one of the best selling, singles and albums of the year that it was produced. And you're thinking to yourself, this is how drugs come into the picture. When the ideal that is set is at the bar that is set is at such a level that with the aptitude and the skills that majority of population have and the income that the society is offering them per hour, I don't know, 7, 10, 15, 20, doesn't matter. The income that the structure is willing to pay them per hour for their skills, more than half of the population, there is no way ever they can do anything close resembling to their idols in life. Sort of the idol is Kim Kardashian, and she goes to this resort and that resort and wears this dress and that shoes and the other, and these are the idols. Now, if you want to do at least one of those things, you can't do all of them, but in order to, tell your friends, have something to say, if you can do at least one of those things, you might not be a loser. So people go up to their nose in debt to do things that their idols, their celebrities do, even though in reality with their income they can't afford it. They do it so they would not look as a loser in the society. And with the debt and the frustration and all the madness that goes along with overspending and overindulging on money that you don't have and you don't earn, at one point they pull the rug from underneath you and you go bankruptcy and this and that and the other, and one of the options becomes numb your brain becomes, okay, I can't reach where my idol is, I can't even perform one of the tasks that he or she performs. Well, I'm a loser, therefore I'm going to try to numb my brain with chemicals. The solution to this is not that, okay, keep away the chemicals. They fucking keep making new chemicals, there is a, there is no way you can, restrict so many chemicals, both natural and synthetic, to prevent, you know, people from numbing their brains. And literally, they go buy glue and sniff glue to numb their brains because they haven't been the bar, the let's say the bar of success has been set. What is considered as successful has been set so away from them that, it just, they did their best, they're doing their best, but there's no way they can even get near it. So after a while, they just give up and start numbing their brains. Either before the bankruptcy, they numb their brains, so they are less worried about all the bad things that they're doing and all the credit debt that they are creating for themselves. Either, you want to numb your brain before the hurricane or after the hurricane, doesn't matter. If there is a, hurricane and you can see it, you can numb your brain before it or after it. You probably want to numb your brain before it and after it if you can't do anything about it. And this is the situation. They see themselves as losers in the society because, they try to achieve the pillars of success of such set society and they weren't successful. So let me numb my brain so I don't have to think why I'm such a loser. Now, here's the thing. Let's do a thought experiment. The thought experiment is this. Let's say the model of success is changed. What I'm trying to say is, would anybody today consider what Buddha did as success, or what Jesus did? Would anybody today, if they go the path of Jesus and at the end they get nailed to the cross, whether it was real or whether it was a made up story, the whole idea, let's assume it was the whole cross and nailing to the cross, the whole torture, let's assume everything really happened just the way they say it happened. Would anybody consider Jesus as a success today? So no, success has been defined differently. I'm sure even at the time of Jesus was not considered to be successful. So my idea, now that's the religious part. You come onto the materialistic world and you see, does anybody in this society consider Tesla as a successful man? We all know the guy, was a genius, invented so many things, but he didn't accumulate much wealth in his lifetime. He didn't reproduce, didn't get married, he didn't reproduce. And you're thinking to yourself, so was Tesla successful? Here we have this genius who was so much ahead of his time, and so many of his inventions was adopted by Thomas Edison and marketed by Thomas Edison. So this guy invented a bunch of stuff. Thomas Edison looked over his hand, recreated it, improved it, and marketed it, and made himself boatloads of money. So in this society, in this time and place, in the world, capitalist world especially, which is supposedly much better than other forms of economy. Okay, in the capitalist world, Tesla and Jesus, they're both losers. And you can name a bunch of other, Che Guevara is considered as a loser because he was a doctor and he could have, built himself a very nice life in Chile, and go into private practice as a doctor and, do a lot of good and have cure a lot of people as a, family doctor. was it Argentina? Sorry, did I say Chile? Argentina. He could have done a lot of good, but then he went and tried to, liberate one country after another, from his perspective, liberate from colonialism, liberate from over, you know, too much interference from abroad. So he was considered as a loser. He died very young, at a very young age, while he could have had a good, you know, medical practice back home. So when you define success as when you equivocate success with wealth, with marketing, how good of a salesman you are, how good of a marketeer you are, how well you can, twist other people's arms to pay you more, or sell them ideas, sell them objectives, sell them things, how well you can sell yourself and whatever you have to offer, and how you can get the highest price for it. That person who can get the highest price for what he has, his skill, himself, his whatever that he has, he's considered successful. If you can, create the most value number-wise. No inventions necessary, no information, no talking out of order, no thinking for yourself, nothing. If you can create value for me, I give you $1. And then these dollars accumulates and you become a wealthy man, and that would be considered successful. But the thing is, again, 50% of society, 60% of society, 70% of society is not that. Is not a good salesman, is not a good talker, is not a good thinker. 50% of society at least still has only physical aptitude and very little cognitive aptitude. How they can be a good salesman and a good marketeer and a good rocket scientist and a good thinker and a good talker? No, very few. So again, back to drugs. How I can numb my brain in order to not feel the pain that I'm feeling, because I'm not rising to the successful category as success is defined in my time and age. Now, again, you want to change, you want people not to want to numb you have to work the equation backward. You have to work the question backward, solve the problems backward. How do I prevent people? How do I want to not prevent? You can't prevent. They find a new chemical. How can I have my people not want to numb their brains? Okay, that's a legitimate question. How, what can I do to help my people not want to numb their brains? The answer is that if you bring the bar lower, the bar of success lower, as in hey, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to feel worthy. You don't have to, be a great salesman like, Mark Cuban to to feel worthy. You don't have to be a, great marketeer and businessman like Jeff Bezos to be worthy. You don't have to be like any of those guys to be worthy. We're going to provide you a job that matches your skill, which we are sure probably you're much better at physical activity than cognitive activity, and we're going to provide you a job, or the system, whatever, the system is going to provide you a job which gives you proper income, that you can use that income to live a life that we are going to say is a successful life. That means if you stop pushing Kim Kardashian on people, raising the bar of success to how much wealth you can accumulate through whatever means, legally, maybe sometimes illegally. Because no, let's be frank. A lot of people, successful people in capitalist societies, they didn't. Their real wealth didn't come through legal means. Eventually, they became legal, but they eventually they moved their wealth into legal means. But they started the actual wealth came through very dubious origins. Came from very dubious origins. For example, Mr. John McCain. He was a pilot, great, but his wife's family, which is where he got all his family and influence from. His wife's family were bootleggers in Arizona. His you know his wife's father or grandfather, whichever one, was a well-known bootlegger moving alcohol from Mexico into Arizona during the Prohibition. And at that time, he has apparently made his money and wealth, and then with wealth comes influence, and then his daughter or his granddaughter, marries John McCain, and with wealth and influence also comes power through the husband who's a senator. So, who was a senator? He's passed now. But my point is this: that so whether through legitimate means or illegitimate means, anybody reaching great wealth in the system that is being promoted, which is capitalism / consumerism, is considered as successful. That is the problem. You're not leaving your people much option with regards to not wanting to numb their brains. They numb their brains because based on the criteria that the society explains to them, gives them, defines for them, based on that criteria, they're not successful. No matter how many years they have worked. They have also tried to do something under the table, over the table, side of the table, went and studied a little, came out. But still, they're not within the framework of what success is considered. Because, they keep pushing the ball higher and higher, the goal higher and higher. So if you have, Kim Kardashian money and you can live Kim Kardashian lifestyle, then you're successful. If you don't, then you're not. You're a loser. If this is changed, let's assume that imaginary, again, thought experiment. Imagine that the Amish. What do Amish consider as successful? Somebody who's, has a good family, is with his family or her family, spends time with them, has time for them, and they're living a very modest life. In this Amish family, this is what success is considered. Being together, passing time, passing good time together. End of story. And a lot of physical labor is involved, and a lot of... This is how we used to live. In the Amish society, I'm sure you don't find unemployed. They have brought down the criteria of success. What is considered successful? They have put that bar down, and the bar is if you can have a good family life together with your family, that's successful. That's success. Based on such a criteria, which is achievable for most people, especially in the Amish community, which most work is still on purpose. They have chosen to do physically instead of mechanization and automation. In that society, there is lots of work with lots of physically demanding work available, And any Amish family, any Amish man or woman can, with, you know, regular dose of daily physical labor, can have a successful, as they define it, life. Therefore, I'm assuming in Amish communities that drug use probably is not a problem. Drug use may not be a problem. I could be wrong, but I kind of doubt it. The guy has what is most people have what is considered, most people can achieve in realistically the modest bars that are considered as success. So no need to numb the brain. Hey, I'm a successful person because I have a family and I eat with every night with my family and we spend time together. Therefore, I'm a successful person. And no need to numb my brain. You see, this is an extreme example, folks. Salute. This is an extreme example. But the point of this example is that by changing the criteria of what can be considered a successful life, you can decrease the stress on your people by not over-representing on their TV screens and on their computer screen. Not over. If you don't have too much over-representation by the wealthy and too much promotion that wealth means success, if you don't do too much of that and you start, telling people that, hey, raising a good family is success, being modest, that means you control your you can control your demons. Being modest means you can control your demons. Demons are demons of greed, demons of want, demons of all the Ten Commandments. Being modest is that basically if you really abide by the Ten Commandments or something similar like the Ten Commandments. Every religion has something similar to the Ten Commandments. So basically, if you can tame your demons, you're successful. And if you can keep calm and cool and and do what is spend time with your family and raise a good family, raise good kids, blah 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 blah. If you can do that, you're successful. And if such people are celebrated as they are in the Amish community, if such people are celebrated instead of Kim Kardashian, Paris Hilton, other celebrities who are, their main aspect of their life is their wealth. TV actors and cinematic actors celebrated because they can pretend to be somebody else. So people don't want to be themselves. So if you can pretend to be somebody else, then they give you lots of money, and that means you're successful in life. And I never forget that a lot of these folks, for example, Mr. Chris Pratt, a young guy, suddenly became successful in participated in a couple of well-known movies. I won't forget it that he keeps saying on his acceptance speech and one of these awards, because he's a successful 20-something-year-old. So he kept on saying that yes, it was God. God was on my side. Everything goes to God, and God this and God that. He doesn't realize that when you keep saying God this and God that, and it wasn't me, it was God, and God helped me, and God helped me, and God deserves this trophy, what you're telling people who weren't one of the million that Hollywood chooses, if you're telling them that if you're not one of the million that Hollywood chooses, God is not on your side. Fuck you, drop dead. God, if God was on your side, you would have been successful. That's another thing that Mr. Austin, the preacher, I don't know, Jeff Austin or something Austin, is a preacher from Texas, fills stadium full of people and blows so much smoke up their asses. I'm wondering why every time they don't call the fire department. There is so much smoke when he talks. There is so much blowing smoke up people's asses when Mr. Austin speaks. Because it's all about, yes, love yourself, and you're so good and you're so great, and if you get up in the morning and it's great. Yeah, he's lowering the bar in a sense that you're great already. You're That's one of his selling points. He lowers the bar of success. Yes and no, but then at the same time he also says that if you're really successful, if that means God is with you. And success in today's again, we went over this. Success is considered as wealth. So if you're wealthy, you're considered successful, and if you're successful, you're considered as somebody who God loves. The rest of you motherfuckers, God hates you. If God didn't hate you, God would have helped you become successful. It's a circular argument, folks. Mr. Rubio, the answer to the question of why are my people using so much chemicals, and where are these chemicals coming? Your kitchen is full of chemicals. A lot of these plants are full of chemicals. It just remains when you make one illegal, then somebody goes and tries to work something out with another plant or another chemical, and the other one is, you make the other one illegal, they go on. Chemicals are not that difficult to manipulate in order to provide a specific effect in human nervous system. It's not that difficult. So my point is this: going after the chemical is not the answer. You have to go after why my people want to numb their brains. Answer to that question is because what is considered as successful, what you promote as success and successful, is not within reach of 90% of the people in your society. It's not within the reach. It's just because minimum wage starts at 7.50 or 10 an hour or 15 an hour, whatever it starts. With that wage, nobody can ever become Mark Cuban. So the point is this, and never can become, 90% can never become Mark Cuban, because the cognitive ability is not there, the math skills is not there, the marketing skill is not there, the other aspects that makes Mr. Cuban is not something that you can teach, that you can send them into college to learn. No, it just doesn't happen. So whether he's flipping burger or pushing paper in some private or public sector, that person can never become very wealthy. So when you bring that bar of success down and you say, no, living like Jeff Bezos is not what is considered success. What is considered as success is if a person has time and spends it with his family and raises good children. That is successful, even if they have to have a modest living. But success is the part that he's with his family and he's raising a good family. If you can promote that, which then people who mostly can achieve that, most people can achieve that. Most people, if you don't, load them with 2 jobs and 3 jobs, most people with 1 job, and go back to the time where a man was paid enough to provide a humble life for his family. If you go to back time without his wife having to work, so his wife can spend time with the children and try to raise a good family. If you promote that, basically if you promote an Amish lifestyle, lifestyle that has a lot to do with family and community, then you could cut back on the this necessity that people feel that they need to numb their brains with chemicals. If you can promote Amish standards of living as successful lives, similar to Amish, have families that you promote these as, the wife doesn't fuck around, the husband doesn't fuck around. It's not the housewives of Atlantic. They're not too wealthy, and they're not too opulent, and they're not too extravagant, and they're not trying to get rich or die trying. If you pull out of that and promote a modest lifestyle, then your people will not feel the need to try to numb their brains. Most of your people, if you can't help. Again, it's a matter of drugs. Is a matter of mitigation. You can't solve the drug problem. You can only mitigate it. So my point is this. But then the problem is that promoting a life of modesty is not good for consumer capitalism based on consumerism. Promotion of a life based on modesty is not very helpful. If the system is based on, if your capitalist system is based on consumerism and more consumerism in order to show growth after growth every year, and if your system is based on consumerism, you can't define success as modesty. You can't define success. Your companies will not define success as a humble life lived well with friends and family, because that's something that doesn't sell couches and mattresses every year. That's something that doesn't persuade people to change their car every 3 years. That doesn't persuade people to do that, and therefore economy is going to suffer. You see, the problem of drug use is is not where does the chemical is coming from, who is making it, who's delivering it. The problem with drug use is that your system needs capitalism needs figureheads such as Kim Kardashian to increase the sales, to promote consumerism. That's how the wheels turn in consumer capitalism. So on one hand, your Kim Kardashian is needed for this form of economy. If you want to continue with this form of economy, Kim Kardashian is a necessity, or things, people of that nature, marketing, sales, people, who can market themselves and market products well and have wealth themselves, and they create wealth and blah, 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 blah. But the point is this, these figureheads, or these idols of consumerism, are needed if you want the wheels of consumerism to turn, to help the wheels of your capitalism to turn. The side effect of having these, the lifestyles of rich and famous being promoted on your TVs, the side effect of that is a high drug use in your society. Because, I need to numb my brain because I'm not gifted to do such cognitive activity to reach that level of wealth, i.e. success. Therefore, I'm not successful, I can never be successful, therefore I'm a loser. Let me smoke that crack and numb my brain for a few hours because I feel totally worthless because I can't generate as much income as Kim Kardashian. I feel absolutely worthless. So pass me that crack pipe. Again, as a clear example, Amish society, which doesn't promote consumerism and extravagant lifestyle and prohibits that and even diminishes those kind of lifestyles, you see there is zero drug use. I don't have the figures, didn't look up the figures, but just through thought process you can tell that those communities will never have drug problems because they don't set the bar of success where you're setting it at. They promote that a successful life is a life lived well with family and community, period. And they promote physical activity. They have prohibited mechanization and automation. Therefore, 50% of their population who are just good at physical activity, that's the only aptitude they have. They can, with the use of that aptitude, they can lead a life that their community considers as a successful life. Therefore, they don't feel bad about themselves. They don't dislike themselves. Therefore, they don't want to numb their brains to get by. Therefore, no drug use. But unfortunately, your capitalist consumerist system is tied to Miss Kardashian, and the likes of her.